Hey guys, Julian here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make deep minimal house like ANOTR, Stussy, and Djoko from scratch. What I'm going to be doing today is I've actually just made a new sample pack called Definitive Deep Minimal House Construction Loop Kits. The link to this is right at the top of the description, and what this is it's 5 of these little kits of full loops of tracks in the style. So I'll play you the demo loops. And then here's the last one. Yeah, so the link to this pack is right at the top of the description. You also get 20 free bonus effects samples that I just created. It's a really great pack if you're looking for just a bunch of inspiration for the style and just different stuff to help you get started making tracks in the style, or maybe just some new inspiration, you know, if you have been making tracks in the style and you already know what you're doing, but you just need some fresh inspiration. So yeah, link to this is right at the top of the description. I'm going to be using this to make a track today and show you guys how I would go from a blank project file to like a pretty finished little idea in the style. So what we're going to do is, this is a completely blank default Ableton window here. I'm going to just delete all of these extra tracks here and get rid of these sends too, because we don't really need to use those for the style. And then we're going to go to, let's do 127 BPM. Usually the BPM for the style is like 126, 127, 128, around there. So I'm going to start here with a kick actually. We'll just take this kick. And since it's already at 127 BPM, I can just unwarp it. Cool, so there we go. I like to always start with a kick. That's honestly not even just this style, like, that's just making dance music in general. I feel like, you know, you need to kind of work your way up the frequency spectrum. So it's like, if you start with just like the hi-hats and the clap or something like that, you're going to have kind of a hard time, because the loudest thing in the mix and the most powerful thing is usually going to be the kick and the bass. So if we just start with the kick, and I'm going to do the bass in a second as well, you're going to have, like, it's just going to be a lot easier for the whole thing to come together. So, yeah, we got our kick. Let's grab a bass line from here. We'll take that one. And there we go, we have a nice little groove going. So you can see, like, if you start with the kick and bass, you know, right there, we have a pretty good deal of the actual, like, groove of the track. So I'm going to add a bit of drum bus on this bass, actually, and we're going to just cut out a bit of space around 100 hertz to make room for the kick. And we'll put a little bit of drum bus on the kick too. And turn everything down since we're starting to clip. And then I'll just throw these in a group together really quick with just a little bit of saturation. And there we go. We have a really solid foundation laid out with the kick and the bass. So yeah, that's really how I recommend making this style. Like, when you're starting out, just start with your kick and bass, you know, get those sounding really good and full together, and then you can move forward. You know, now we have some space to add, maybe like, let's start with some hi-hats. So I'll go into, let's go in kit 5 here. Yeah, let's take that hi-hat. And then we'll get the clap as well. Let's use the clap from here. Cool, so now we have just like the most basic drums in, just the open hi-hat and the clap. Now we can maybe start adding in a few more. Like, let's go into this kit. You know, we could get like a tambourine, just going chick 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 we're just kind of working our way up in terms of like how much in the forefront the elements are. It's like we started with kick and bass, then we get the hi-hat and the clap, then we add in this background tambourine, and now once we have that, we can start adding in maybe like some of these little extra hi-hats, like, you know, something like this. And you can see how it starts to come together. With this style, it's usually pretty busy in the percussion too. Like typically the way I find it works is your track should be maybe like 80% kick and bass and kick and bass and sort of main groove, like all the percussion, all the, you know, hi-hats and claps and stuff, and then 20% like effects and melodic stuff like that. But really a lot of what's happening is in the percussion. So we can add a few more layers. This is usually where I would go and add like, you know, like this bongo loop. And we could add some more little, like, kind of background hi-hats and stuff, too, like. Actually, let's just grab this little percussion. It's not really, like, I'm not too discerning with, like, oh, this has to be a hi-hat here, and this has to be, like, a percussion here, you know. It's kind of just adding in stuff like this to get it to sort of fill up the mix. And we can even take this and just move the start time forward, so now you can see it like. It's a nice way to take a loop like this and make it fit in more into your actual track. Oh, but we're gonna just duplicate that. Alright, there we go. And then I'm gonna make 2 more groups here. We're gonna get all the hi-hats in a group. And then we're gonna get the percussion in a group. And we can start to process these groups. And I like doing separate groups for the hi-hats and the percussion because you're going to process them a little bit differently. Like with the hi-hats, I usually just put on a saturator because it's going to beef these up in a very transparent way. But with the percussion, I usually like to use a bit of drum bus because it does make it a lot fatter. But if you use drum bus on the hi-hats, at least like what I'm finding recently, is that you can kind of like lose a lot of that high end and sharpness, so just putting it on the percussion instead. But yeah, and then now if we play this in the group. So now the whole mix feels like, you know, it's really starting to come together. Cool, and then I'll name this percussion. And we'll name this one hats. Cool, so now I think that we're ready for some sort of like melodic or stab type of thing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna check this bass line key. Okay, so we're in F minor for the bass line, so I'm gonna grab some stabs from here. I like these a lot. These have like that very sort of melancholic, like just deep feel like you want with the style. Like that's something I've noticed is the type of stabs you're looking for is almost like, you know, like minor 7th, major 7th, minor 9, major 9 chords, like stuff that's just gonna have a very like kind of melancholic and smooth, well, and sort of like jazzy feel to it as well. Oh, and then we're gonna pitch these down as well since this kid's in G minor. Luckily we can just go in, select both, put them down -2, and now it's in key with the bass line. And so now you can see how the groove is working. We have, like I said, about 80% of this track is the bass line and the kick and the percussion and hi-hats, and then 20% of what's happening here, or maybe not exactly 20%, but a much smaller part is the melodic and sort of like stab stuff like this. Cool, so this has come together really nicely. I'm gonna just grab like a little bit more percussion, because there was something in here, I'm pretty sure. Okay, yeah, so what we're gonna do is I'm going to grab this hi-hat and this crash here. And these, when I made them in the loop, you can see they kind of like are meant to fit together. So I'll turn these down a little bit. And then now you can hear how this is just going to add that last little bit of like an extra sort of background thing. Just having that little adds so much groove to the track, and you can hear it's also kind of nice because it's playing off of what the stabs are doing. Like, this is something I think is really important with the style, is like making sure everything is going to fit together and kind of like groove together when you have such a busy track like this. So like, it goes like, and while that's happening, the hi-hat and the crash are then going, so it's like lining up with that. And again, this is going to give you a really powerful groove. And when people ask like how to make your track sound more professional, that's really it. Like, if you have every element sort of interacting, that's one of the biggest things that makes your tracks feel like, more professional. Because even if people, maybe not everybody is a music producer, not everybody is going to be able to listen to this and say, oh, well, the background third hi-hat is perfectly lining up with where the stab is playing. That's not going to happen, but it's a very subconscious effect, and that's really what you're going for, is it's like the power of that subconscious effect and how that can work in a track. So yeah, that is pretty much it for this one, guys. Let's listen to this loop from start to finish that I just created. Cool, alright, quick little kick cut out on the end there. But yeah, so that's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full, definitive, deep, minimal house construction loop kits, plus the free effects right at the top of the description on my Bandcamp. This is a great way to support me if you guys have really been enjoying these videos and you want to support me, and you also just want to get a really dope sample pack. I think this is honestly like one of the best sample packs that I've heard for this style yet. The link to that is right at the top of the description. It really supports me, guys. Every little bit helps. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you tomorrow with another one.